One of the biggest housing structures in Europe is located just outside Rome, in Italy, in the shape of a mastodontic residential complex built entirely of concrete and steel. It's called Corviale, aka the Kilometer. Its design was conceptualized in the early 1970s, and by 1975 construction began in the creation of a major landmark in Italian architecture. The story of social housing in Italy has been quite rocky ever since the end of World War II, with millions of people scattered all over the country. It took years after 1945 to establish a strategy around big capitals to provide housing for families. In the period between the 1950s and the 1960s, the economical boom managed to provide the population with jobs and increasing the migration of people from the south of the country in search of better life opportunities. It's here in this window of time that a new form of speculation took place by pouring cement inside and outside municipalities, who were eager to sell land to a newly formed developer, often overlooking laws and regulations. Corviale is a late example of such speculation happening outside the capital, attempting to maximize the housing capacity, reaching a total of 1,200 apartments. It was conceived in 1972 by a team of architects led by Mario Fiorentino, along with Federico Gorio, Piero Maria Luigi, Giulio Starbini, and Michele Valori. In its construction time between 1975 and 1984, the project was held back by problems of financing and urban design, which tipped in the dimension of major civil corruption amongst government officers and officials, resulting in budget problems and delays. The works were halted when the construction company declared bankruptcy after finishing the residential portion of the project. It was a mistake in the beginning, giving the green light to only one developer. Because Corviale wasn't finished according to the original plans, the first apartments were given to families in 1980, while the site continued its operation with great difficulties in finalizing the project. This prompted the squatting of many hundreds of apartments from 1980 to the early 1990s, pushing furthermore the final deadline of its inauguration. Corviale is made of a two-apartment complex and 9 floors, characterized by the presence of walkways and steel connecting different areas and levels. It includes commercial activities as well as municipal offices, providing services to the families living in the structure. The 4th floor was destined to host the service and commercial activities, but the squatting occupation of the properties delayed the works. From the outside, the whole structure shows its imposing stance above the territory, with its unique volume having a total length of 1 kilometer. It's a massive undertaking of architectural practices without precedents for Italy and in Europe, where many details have been left out of the picture, becoming a major problem soon after the completion of the project. Nobody in the country has ever attempted such pharaonic dare to house so many people in one single spot in the outskirts of the city of Rome. The city, as well as Italy, was facing a huge crisis of housing rights and mounting political tensions in the late 1960s that led to many social and economical changes that affected the nation during the period on different levels. Corviale was conceived in a period of strong academic experimentation, which included psychology, economy, and architecture, as the main element to fuse together while trying to resolve the problem of social science. The purpose of such skill in the project aimed at stimulating people's socialization and creating a new type of community based upon the volume of the structure. Rome decided to resolve its housing problems by investing in a project of archaeology DNA, which implied the creation of a massive structure within the city boundaries, becoming a citadel of its own. The concept of archaeology was being developed as a solution to a higher level of density, where the idea of the apartment complex would multiply in one single site. We cannot spell archaeology without mentioning its father, Italian architect Paolo Soleri, who spent the majority of his life reshaping the concept of urban design. It was during the period of the late 1960s and onto the end of the 1970s that revolutionary housing solutions started to appear in the Western world in an attempt to modernize living spaces through a mixture of architecture and social sciences. However, Corviale fell short due to many issues related to the political turmoils of Italy in that period, as well as the changing of trends in housing construction, which deemed the project too much of an experiment. The overwhelming use of industrial components like concrete and metal contributed to create an unwelcoming environment as well as an unplanned site. Rome should have taken notice of the Put-Aigo social housing project in St. Louis 10 years before the beginning of the project. Large-scale archaeology don't always work as intended because it tends to segregate citizens from the rest of the urban landscape, creating ghetto communities which in their way will develop any necessary meaning to survive, whether legit or illegal. Psychologically, those living in such structure are individuals who become virtual prisoners of the surrounding walls, which act as a city on its own, placing many in a limbo state where they do not exist in a suburban or city setting. Buildings of this size are unique artifacts of the human exploration in the human and urban environment. They are rare entities that develop their own mentality and population, becoming an appendix of the urban fabric. Throughout the years, Corviale manages to establish an open connection with its citizens via public programs including arts and social events. Without them, the whole structure would have turned into a prison without bars that can be defined as a warehouse to store people. However, the issue of crime and segregation still persists inside a massive structure that is an identity of its own. A citadel that can be independent from the rest of the town, having the essential services next door. Because the complex is virtually self-sufficient, it automatically becomes a separate way of living for thousands of people, which have developed behavior conditioning through the influence of the structure, with its layout and its gentrification issues. Large complexes such as Corviale are very difficult to maintain and to administer from the bureaucratic point of view because they act as an oversized condominium with many plumbers bound under the one roof. The volume of such structure requires a dedicated amount of services from the municipality of Rome in the shape of utility consumption, garbage removal, administration power, social workers, law enforcement, and all the possible red tapes that comes with. The future of Corviale remains uncertain amidst the last 20 years of political turmoils and scandals Rome's administration faced across several mayors. Proposals to improve the structure were made through a series of upgrades which included an exterior painting application to remove the grey colors, to the implementation of green solutions. However, these are concepts that are trying to blend the complex with the surrounding landscape rather than resolving the most important problematic: the social and architectural failure of large structures containing high numbers of people. Italian politicians are split on the future of Corviale. Some do propose the redevelopment and upgrade of the entire building, while others push for more social services, others for the construction of an alternative low-density housing project and the dismantle of the whole complex. It seems more logical to root for the most radical approach, which is to tear down the structure after making sure its population is housed in better condition. As of now, millions have gone to maintain Corviale with little success, and living conditions haven't improved. Its continuous maintenance will result in a much more expensive approach than rethinking the whole area into a whole new development opportunity.